So I'm not quite sure where we are in this series, 4 or 5, I think, or 6, but it doesn't matter. Kenderford restoration from, what did we say, from forest to harvest in 10 months. This is the view of the, I'll have to back up again, sorry. From that post to that post, which my best brother-in-law in the world bent, is 6.79 meters. The property is 123 meters wide by 6.79 meters. It looked pretty much like that, and some even higher full-size trees and so on and so forth. On January 4th or something, it was mulched with an 8-foot forestry mulcher, and some areas there was enough mulch right in that to plant in. Some areas I added a few spots. Some areas I planted cover crops. We'll just discuss it as we go along. I just 2 days ago or yesterday, I'm not sure, cut this down. This is first thing is I'm no longer building a pile and asking a guy to come and chip it on my main zone 1, zone 2 property, as we're closing it in and getting more and more difficult and don't want heavy trucks in there, so we bring it here. And what I do is I just spread it out just before the guy comes, and in January again of 2016 I'll have this mechanically chopped down. I think that might be the last time. That will be the 3rd time. I did mechanically chop it down by hand with the blade attachment on my strimmer yesterday. Here, what we had was nice thick 2, 3, 4 foot high regrowth of blackberry bushes, and not so many rose hips, but some. They're a big trailing thing, and some little tree. This little tree, I don't know what it is. When it's these little upstarts, the regrowth is mostly from stumps, so it's coppice effect. This is the plant here. It's it's a nice little. There's a fair amount of organic material. Igor, come here. Igor. He goes and lays in the shade under this tree here. So chop that all down, and look, it's disappeared. You can take the strimmer and kind of bounce it up and down on if you cut a tree, a bushy sort of type tree, and just kind of thrash it down, but it just takes too long. I didn't do that. And just cut it down, chop and drop, leave it right where it lays. Some things I might have missed, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm going to cut it once more myself, and then again in January do it. I had several different plans here. That's the way things work in this world. You kind of roll with the punches. I got about 100 square meters covered this spring with just manure. I had no time, and it didn't matter anyway because I just put it down to mulch it. And I planted red corn and blue corn there. And I had imagined that I would get this whole area covered and turn this into field crops, naked oats, fall rye, that sort of thing. But that's just crazy. There's so I cut it down, and you can see past the property line there. We can use the car, and you can see the property line. I also cut that area because that was kind of not quite as bad, but trees and stuff and whatever. The farmer uses this field. He pays nothing for it, and he gets exactly what he pays for. But the people get a free cut. He gets a terrible crop of hay for free, and the people that own the land that have never been here for 40 years don't pay fines for having weeds growing on their property. So it's a mutually semi-beneficial relationship. So because we came in, the guy just cleaned everything up, everything that started to overgrow. I feel I should keep the bushes and stuff, and blackberries and trees will start to come. Not only because we don't want that mess, which is not, we don't really not want it either, right against our property line, but it is thin here, and I kind of cheat and use with the car. I cheat and kind of use it, turn around, and then I can even come back on my own property and then drive out, but I can't even turn the car around in this. It's less than 7 meters wide. So then eventually, once we stop that growth from coming, he should be able to cut hay, except for this little spot here, which is a pile of bricks. He'll have to go around that, but right now I'm sure he's afraid of. I never saw it, how he cuts his hay, whatever. He's afraid of damaging his machine, so he doesn't cut it. So I felt I should keep that. But what I did is I rake it up and pile it up on our land. And in this case, these walnuts are just maybe 1.5 meters, 2 meters away from the property line. So I mulch them with that. Most of it I put on our own property. And, you know, it'll pile up, and then Dennis will just whip through it with his little 30-meter wide mulcher, and everything will just disappear. And in the meantime, it'll choke back stuff. And what I won't do, I won't cover. I'll just strip. I think this is trees. There'll be more explanation of why. The best thing with this place is trees. But again, here's our conundrum. Again, there's the survey points. That is the, let's say it's south, and that's the north property lines. 6.79 meters. You have to be 1 meter away from the property line before you can plant a tree. So that means 1 meter. I think I'm going to plant polonias here. So if I go 3 meters, which I think 3 meters by 3 meters would be ideal, that would leave me 1 meter, 4 meters, and then I couldn't get a third tree in. So I'm going to go 2 meters by 3 meters. My little forestry trailer, I can get within 1.5 meters is probably all clearance I need. And then I'll go 3 meters the other way. So I'll get 3 rows of trees instead of just 2. And I'll strip mulch the first meter, the third meter and the 5th meter. And we'll do the same thing which we've done here. This is the area like I wanted to talk about just a minute ago. Just choke this out with hay mulch and not plant anything in it there this year, but then try and get field crops and stuff. So this was transplanted. These are acorn squash. Well, fairly happy with the results. These guys suffered a little bit. And again, I'm going to take about 1 meter of the neighboring property and chop it back. His machine is about 1 meter wide, so he can just run down there once. Because if you don't, you can see, if you leave the trees right up against the property line, they grow up and they grow out. They'll come all the way. They'll shade and choke out all the way half our property. Like, not that I'm not an opponent of shade, but when your property is only less than 7 meters wide, you want it, you know. So he'll just clean that up. We do hope to. These are just little properties. Some of them as thin as 2 meters wide. This next one is about 2 or 3 meters, and the next property after that is 2 or 3 meters wide, and then some of them get a little larger. So we want to kind of work our way up the hill there. So yeah, this is transplanted acorns in hay mulch, which, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. This was a genetic isolation chamber. Nobody really plants here. There is a garden way over there. So I planted red corn there and then blue corn here the first a week later, and they're 5 to 7 day different periods. It probably wasn't enough to get things, so I guess it worked out. The blue corn was a complete failure. Johnny selected seed. I can't say that I was completely thrilled with the seeds I bought from them. So then maybe a month later, I had some bantam, golden bantam. I'm planting a 73-day hybrid at the main property for cash crop corn, sweet corn. So in order to get genetic isolation on the golden bantam, I tried it here about a month later. So it was late, and some of it did come up. And what's happened here is, again, this is one of the reasons that we're favoring trees here, is this is wild pig damage. They've come through. Look, they've totally devastated a lot lot worse than it was just a day or two ago. Or yesterday, whenever it was, 2 days ago I cut this. They've come in here and smashed some more corn down. So I don't think corn, I don't know if they'll be after the squash Oh yeah, so I didn't finish that part. So yes, that's another reason why we wanted to cut this down. I think having it cut will make it less desirable for the hogs to come in here because they don't have any cover, but they can come through the trees and get here too, but they can't just, I don't know. So, and then the other main reason for cutting this down is to get it rotting, and then that'll stimulate more growth. It was before I had made the decision that we wouldn't mulch this, I went ahead and planted dried mustard just in the raw ground. It was pretty, like vegetation was almost completely missing when it got chopped the second time. I was surprised it wasn't so much growth between January and it was like May when we got it chopped. So I tried some mustard first and then I tried clover. So that stuff, and it's spotty. Some places it didn't catch at all. It just was impossible. Some of it was heavy. I don't know if you can see, like you know, in some places there was quite a few trees and it was just complete mulch. You couldn't, there's no way you'd get germination there. But in spots, we got a little bit of clover. So cutting that down is going to let that clover come up better. And hopefully it works out for us that it's mostly in the paths. I might even leave the paths open, the in-between, and cut it for a year or two. Since there is a shortage of mulch always, we just have a clover and blackberry cover crop. So yeah, the red corn didn't come up at all here. I tried a little bit of golden bantam to try and get my seed stock back. I planted, for some reason I planted sunflowers in the red, thinking, oh, if the red doesn't come up, then at least I'll get sunflowers. And it came up so good, and it looked so good, that when I planted the blue a week later, I said I didn't, but I had less seed, so I didn't. So I planted this row to sunflower. So unfortunately, that was a fail, because at least I could have had sunflower there. But whatever, you know, that's how things work out. So yeah, the hogs are doing some serious damage here. Look, oh yeah, they just, in the last, holy snap and rip, they've just destroyed the place. All the corns, they've gone for the corn. There's only about 5 stalks of corn left. Unreal. The red corn is a wipe. The hogs have come in and dug out the corn, gnawed it down. Our pig loves it. And left the sunflowers. Yeah, and so then this was just an area that was whatever. I did this little section in this section was just what fell, just complete chop and drop. And I seeded from seed, didn't transplant. Acorn and Hubbard squash here, and this part was a little thinner, so I brought some straw in, and the hogs are making a mess of this, and they're not doing very well. I didn't re-mulch. I had beautiful soil here, and I brought in good soil. I gave a good, 20, 15 liter pail of soil. Scraped the chips back, the existing chips. Dumped that in, and then planted the seeds right in that. But I didn't. I should have mulched it. I had beautiful soil underneath that. Should have mulched it. These haven't taken off like I would have hoped, but maybe we'll get something. But I'm afraid the hogs are going to get them too. But that's the update here. And then there's the little section of zone 5, but I'm cutting it. I'm maintaining it. There's lots of dead stuff in here. This is imagined to be like a nursery area where you can shelter trees over winter, young trees over winter or something. Clean it out there. There's kind of a natural area there which I could use for a turnaround. That tree's dead. That sort of thing. And then the property line, it's just, it's only 7 meters by 15 or 10 or whatever. Just a small area that was heavily forested. So I thought we'll thin it out and go from there on that. So yeah, there's the update. I'm sorry. Sorry about that red corn. It was going to be the salvation of this whole project. And the hogs have defeated us.